guys, it's been a long time coming, but I'm proud to announce that my hands are finally registered with the International Registry of Lethal Hands. This is the only place where your God-given gifts of danger can get the recognition that they truly deserve. Now you might be thinking, why on earth would anybody need to register their hands as lethal? Let me break it down for you. There are those among us whose hands are so downright dangerous, they need to be documented. Registration is a moral responsibility, and it's a vote for the greater good of humanity. The sole mission of the International Registry for Lethal Hands is to catalog the most formidable hands on the planet. So if you know someone, and you even suspect they possess lethal hands, do not hesitate. Register them immediately. And if you've ever looked at your own hands and thought, damn, these dogs are dangerous, don't settle. Go register. Head over to registeryourhands.com, fill out a simple form, and you're official. Remember, use the promo code Chael to save 20%, or just click on the link below. Look at this Jon Jones thing. You guys need to understand, and so many people miss this, and I want to just be your leading expert on it, all right? The word retirement in any industry means that you're no longer going to do something for pay that you had been doing for pay. Can we define it as that? Would that work for everybody? Okay. In MMA, it's the legal term. It's important that you understand this. This is a wildly important concept that you understand. Now, I used to be an expert, and it was for all the wrong reasons, but an expert nonetheless, in USADA. I'm well aware that USADA is not the agency that currently tests, but their rules largely overlap. And I'll find myself often saying USADA, so just accept that for the point of this story. But if you were to retire under USADA, USADA is no longer able to test you. They can't come test you. If they attempted to test you and you were to deny them a test, you would not be held to the standard of denying a test because they would not have the oversight to hold you to that standard, just for example. Nothing worse you can do than to deny a test. You might not know that. You're better to fail a test. Quite literally, you're better to fail the test than to refuse a test. Okay. But it will remove yourself from the pool instantly when you retire, and you can do that with your words. They prefer that you do it in writing. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? You got to fill out some paperwork and get to a fax machine or scan it, and maybe you got to mail it in, certified mail, something like this. Is that probably what you think? No, a text message will do. You send a text message to Jeff Novinsky, and you can screenshot it. You can send it to somebody higher. You could send it to Dana, screenshot it, get it to Novinsky, gets it to USADA, and you're out. You're out. Now, if somebody wanted to go on a steroid holiday, why wouldn't they just do that? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Because to re-enter, to unretire, is a difficult thing. And it does take time. And in a best case scenario, depending on how you want to interpret the bylaw, you need 2 good tests, which oddly mean negative. Positive is bad. It's very confusing. And you got to be in there for 2 months. So that begs the question, well, what if I'm in there for 2 months and they don't show up? Nobody knows. That's actually never been tested. Now, the second rule, and the one you might remember from UFC 300 and Conor McGregor, because they were getting ready to apply it, is that you need 6 months. You've got to be back for 180 days. Now, that rule, while should not have applied to Conor McGregor, that rule is without question for anybody that has failed a previous test, of which Jon Jones has failed previous tests. Do you understand this distinction? Okay, so if Jon Jones were to retire, it comes with legal implications. If he were to come back right now and unretire, he would have 180 days just for saying the words, yes. Before you think it's more complicated than this, I do not say this with exaggeration. If Jon Jones says the words publicly, I'm retired, they prefer you put it in a text message. But if you speak those words, he's out. He's out. Now, this got tested one day. I'm working with Kenny Florian, show was called UFC Tonight, and the year is 2012. Conor McGregor came on our show, and he was just hustling. He was just having fun. He told everybody, I'm retired. I'm all done. I'm not going to do this anymore. He didn't mean it. He didn't say it like he meant it. It was just for shock effect. It was obvious for shock effect, but he used the words. We're still filming live, and we have to cut out a segment to bring Dana on, who had to clarify. And Dana said this. He goes, look, it's actually against the rule. Conor doesn't know that. He doesn't know there's a bylaw. Dana explains this whole thing. He says, so I just want to make it perfectly clear. He does not retire. He does not mean he was retired. He was out doing an interview. All right, great. But now we all learned something very valuable. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, so what? You might be thinking, so what? We'll wait 6 months for Jon Jones. We waited 3 years for Jon Jones. One time. You might be thinking that. But this isn't strike one. This is strike two. We were told by Jon, I'm going to go up to heavyweight. I'm going to spot my opponent some pounds. And the bigger man, at least perception-wise, has the advantage. So at least perception-wise, I am going to give the audience something to believe that my matches are going to be more competitive. Okay. Not for nothing. That's great. That was a really fire marketing plan. The bad news was it ended up taking 3 years and he only gained like 7 pounds. But either way, from a marketing standpoint, he did hit a home run on that. The problem is, they put him in there with Surreal gone and they weighed the same thing. Jon weighs in at like 236 and Surreal hits the scale at 242, which is the same thing. 242 and 236, it's the same thing. So I'm just saying it backfired, but it's okay that it backfired. It's okay that we didn't get this big ploy even though we waited 3 years because we have Francis Ngannou under contract and this whole thing is about Francis. So let's get Jon and Francis together. Now you can go back and you can use Google as your reference point. You will not find one time ever that Jon Jones tried to fight Francis when he could have. You will not find one time with Google as your reference that Francis tried to fight Jon when he could have. These two guys didn't say each other's name until Francis is released from the promotion and signed to box in the Middle East. Then all of a sudden, these two got all talkative. So now we find the exact same situation. We find Tom Aspinall. He was a big guy. And that's what we set out to find. We went out to sign a big guy. Okay. We lost our first big guy, but now we got a new big guy, and he's even younger. And you can use Google as your reference. But you will not find a time ever that Jon tried to fight him. You just won't. So I'm explaining this to you because in many's minds, hey, Jon can come back anytime. Hey, Jon's the greatest of all time. Hey, that's Jon Jones. Of course we'll fight him again. But you're missing a few things. There's not 2 and 3 and 4 fights for Jon Jones. There's 1. And a year from now, if Tom is still the champion, it's somewhat realistic that Jon could say, I want to come back. But you must understand this from the promotion standpoint. We couldn't count on you and do business with you when you were the champion of the world. A year from now, you're a year older. You're not any better. We understand that you're poor. We understand this is about the money, but it should have been about the money then. And you're going to look at it and go, hey, Jon, let me ask you a question, real privately, just between us. I don't want anybody to hear that I asked you this. What if you're right? No, Jon, what if you're right? You call us and you said you want to fight again. Aspinall's our champion. That's the only fight anybody wants to see you do. What if you're right and you are better than him? Do you think we're going to bring you in, a guy that we couldn't count on when we should have counted on him, a guy that we couldn't trust when he was younger and better and more prepared? You think we're going to bring you in and let her beat our champion? And then we find ourselves in this exact same spot, which is you holding the gun on us? Do you understand where this becomes a problem? I take a guy at his word because I have to. Jon says, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And I will tell you, that's a fire that's inside of you. And when that goes out, it never comes back. Now, there is a question of, does his go out? There is a question of, is he sincere and he really doesn't want to do this anymore? But I'm letting you know right now, today, it's a unilateral decision made by Jon. Aspinall didn't want it. The company didn't want it. It was a unilateral decision. If you were to try to come back in a year, it's not unilateral. Tom Aspinall, who you said no to, Tom's got the very right a year from now. If he's still champion, that means he's sitting on 3 defenses, by the way. Tom's got every right to look at you and go, hey, old man, you're not even ranked. I know about the day you used to be champion. I know about the day that you used to be pound for pound. The rankings come out every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Your name's not in them. So if you want to come back and you're serious about it, jump back in like everybody else. I mean, all of a sudden it becomes a big problem. And there's not really an example throughout history that you could bring me. And as recently as last Wednesday, Francis dipped his toe in the water. But what was a unilateral decision by Francis at one point now needs group thought. And the group said, we don't want to do business. So if Tom Aspinall is still standing here a year from now, he's still on top, he's still the king of the mountain, and Jon says, I want to come back. I know that right now you're thinking, well, then Jon would come back. I know that's what you're thinking in your heart. But when you start thinking with your mind, you're going to realize the response is going to be, why would we let you?